Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Doc is In. Today's episode is a special one for me because it is going to discuss National Social Work Month. So I want to use this opportunity to say thank you so much to all the social workers out there. Everybody plays a role, and their role is important. I'm particularly partial to social workers, of course, because I am one. So, guys, congratulations. Way to go. Really, way to stick in there. Um, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what role social workers play, um, where they come in, what fields they operate in, and I'll tell you a little bit of my social work background as well. Um, let's hop right in, okay? So, first of all, let me say growing up, I didn't really know many social workers. I knew people who maybe worked in like a social services field, but I didn't know many social workers specifically. The only real background I had with social workers, as I feel like most people have the same background, is oh, they step in when somebody needs to take somebody's kids. That's all you ever hear. Unfortunately, usually in like media, that's all you ever see is like a social worker being called in to take care of kids or remove kids from a home. And while yes, social workers can do that, there are other things that social workers do that go so far outside of taking kids out of a home. And for clarification, that is never someone's goal. The goal is to keep the family together if at all possible and if it is safe. They're not setting out to take out anybody's children, but that's again neither here nor there. So first off, let's talk about the levels of social work practice. You fall under one of three levels. It's either micro level, meso level, or macro level. So when we're talking about micro level social work, that's usually like done one on one or like within one small cluster. So if I'm saying that, I'll be saying like either I'm working with maybe one individual person on case management or even like individual therapy, or I'm working with like one family. But when we go into meso, it's kind of when we split out into small groups, and it's like think more like substance use treatment, or maybe I'm working with like a community group to facilitate some type of change in the community. So micro and meso can kind of drift into one another, but basically it's think okay, either I'm with one person or one family or I'm with a small group of people, but generally not a large group, just something small that where they all may have something in common like substance use treatment. Macro level social work is like policy change. I'm trying to create change. I'm trying to create maybe a cultural change or a societal change, but I'm trying to do it very, very large. So that's when I'm more so advocating for large groups of people or lobbying for something. That's when we get macro level social work. But generally, no matter which level you're on, the goal is to empower someone or some people um, and make them um, mm, agents in their own delivery or deliverance, if you will. It's hard to describe that because a lot of people feel like social workers are just supposed to give them something, but that's not it. Oftentimes, it's we're trying to empower you to make the best decision or make the best move forward that you can make. Sometimes that's gonna be a move that for you seems backwards or lateral, but it can actually be helpful to you to move forward. Oftentimes, we get accused by other people of like, oh yeah, the social worker will just give them X, Y, Z, and it's like, no, that's not how this works. Not at all. Not even a little bit. Our goal is to empower you. So we're here for self empowerment. We're here to strengthen you, maybe to do what you need to do. And I always like to say, I'm a purveyor of hope. My goal is to give people a little bit more hope than they came in with. And I'm very proud of doing that. So you find social workers in a lot of different fields. Oftentimes we're found in things like administration and policy and research because usually we keep an eye on the whole picture. Because it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to put a band-aid on your cut, but sometimes it's like we need to look a bit deeper because why are you constantly being cut? That kind of thing. Um, you have child, family, and school social workers. These are the ones that most people tend to be familiar with. A social worker at the school talking to the kids, or somebody with maybe CPS or APS. A lot of people tend to, deal with that. Um, there are community social workers where their job is they're out there with nonprofits and they're trying to provide resources for the community or get some type of maybe funding or something like that for the community. You have people who, social workers who work in criminal justice. They're the case managers oftentimes for recent parolees, helping them get back into society. You have, they're called gerontological social workers. Um, or some people just refer to it as like a Jerry psych social worker type situation. They usually are working with older adult populations, just trying to make sure that they have adequate housing, health care, those kinds of things. You have medical and hospital social workers. These social workers are usually in a position to help patients not constantly return to the hospital. So they're there to try and bridge those gaps and figure out, hey, why are they coming back here every week? There must be a reason for it. You have mental health and substance abuse social workers. Kind of speaks for itself. Oftentimes doing psychotherapy, working with patients to get them to understand why they're doing what they're doing. Military and veteran social workers, they are usually connecting veterans with resources, helping with transition back to civilian life, providing support to families during deployment, that kind of thing. Palliative and hospice social workers, once you hit palliative care or hospice care, usually it's saying you're kind of either dealing with the chronic illness or nearing the end of life. So they're there to help coordinate care. They're there to also help with like those emotional and medical needs that they have or the questions that the family have. Psychiatric social workers are usually again providing that psychotherapy and working with family members, and they're like psychiatric social workers are usually in some type of psychiatric hospital. um, I think I mentioned school social workers already, so we already talked about them. So again, as you see, there's like lots of different types of social workers. One of the first social workers that I really came in contact was at my high school, and she was at LCSW. She still is, and actually now I think she has a doctorate and she's a professor. She was amazing. She was just such an awesome person and a great woman, and I should say she is because she's still alive. I don't know why I keep saying was, but she is such an awesome person and an amazing woman. And it was her who inadvertently kind of put the seed in my head when when I was in high school, I really had no clue as to what I wanted to do with myself long term. I went to college because, to be quite honest, it was understood that I would go. I had no idea what I was really going to do. I just knew I was going to college. So initially, my major was like business, and that changed from business to music to international business to general studies to like I had like three or four others. Like I changed majors every other day. Um, but at one point, I just took some time off and I was working in hotels, and I'd gotten really good at it. I'd moved like up the chain to a point where I was consulting for hotels. But the issue that I was running into was I was good at the work, but I didn't feel fulfilled by the work. The one thing that I always appreciated about working in hotels was the people interaction. I loved interacting with people, and I loved like getting to know their stories, finding out about like why are they here, what's going on, that kind of thing. So when you get to meet more and more people and you get to know more and more about them, it's like, oh, okay, this is cool, really awesome. And I found that people just kind of were okay opening up to me. Like they never felt like weirded out by me or anything like that. So they would just, feel free telling me things to the point that like I've been on airplanes before and literally tried to kind of be in a bubble. Like I put headphones on and I'm trying to go to sleep with like my neck pillow, and like this one lady just talked to me literally the entire flight, Like, it was a 2.5 hour flight. She talked to me the whole way, and I was like, what the frick? I was really trying to go to sleep, but it's all good. So, but the thing about it is, I like that part of it. And then when I had a friend who, um, took his own life, I realized that there was a need for more mental health care that targeted men of color and children of color. And I saw a need, and I just wanted to do what I could do to fill that gap. And I didn't really know at first how to go forward. But I was trying to find out, what path do counselors take? What path do um, therapists and psychologists take to get to their ultimate goal? I didn't really want to major in psychology because I felt like, it just it didn't feel comfortable per se. I liked studying people, so my bachelor's is actually in sociology. I took some really fun classes, and I really excelled in those classes because it was studying people and their behavior. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. Um, I ended up getting another master's in health administration because at that time, my goal was I wanted to open a series of clinics that focused on the mental health needs of minority men and children. After I completed that master's, I went back for a master's in social work, and I focused on substance use and domestic violence because I felt like the two usually went hand in hand. And I just really enjoyed what I was studying. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed figuring out, like, it was very connect the dots. Like, okay, so this happens, and so then this happens behind it. So I just really felt like I got a lot out of it. And when I immediately, after I graduated, I went into substance use treatment. And man, it was so, for lack of a better word, it was so intense. I think a lot of times people see those who are in the throes of addiction and just kind of lose compassion because, you kind of lose tolerance for it. But I'm always, kind of amazed at how much people have gone through. And that's why I said in a previous video, nobody will ever say, you know, what do you want to be in life? I want to be a crackhead. It doesn't happen. Something happened along the way that brought us to that point. And I always want to kind of find out what happened because I think when we know a little bit more, we can be a bit more compassionate to other people's stories and other people's situations. So, yeah, I did substance use for a while, and then I got into mental health. I did mental health in a prison. I did it in an inpatient psych hospital, and it's been awesome. I must say, I love mental health. I love um, being a therapist. I love being a clinician. Um, when you help people get to those aha moments, like you're gonna have times where you might work with somebody for months and months, and they don't get it. But when they get it, it makes all the work that you've done worth it. And when you see people living a life that's better than the one that they came in with, it's worth it. So, what I want to say is for anybody out there, you got a heart for people, you want to help people, but maybe you don't know how, definitely consider social work. It's not as simple as people like to make it. Like the only jobs you'll get are with the state or something. I don't know. But it's not as simple as people like to make it. There's so many avenues for social workers, and there's such a huge need for people who are willing to advocate on behalf of those who can't advocate for themselves. As our population of elderly citizens grows, social workers are needed. Man, there's nothing worse than seeing an elderly person be taken advantage of. And if you can be that person to stand in the gap for them, that's definitely a big one. Children, now I think probably more than ever, you're seeing kids being abused and mistreated, and they need a voice. Um, if you think that you're that person, then definitely, pursue social work. Um, Honestly, this is a field for people who have a heart for people and who want to help other people and you want to see other people live the best life that they can. So if that's you, again, we are always in need of more social workers in this world. All right, I think that's about it. Yeah, to all my social workers out there, keep on, man. Keep doing what you're doing. I know some days it's tiring, some days it's exhausting, but I promise that what you're doing does have an impact. You may never know all the people's lives whom you affect positively just by doing what you do. Never discount the gravity of a kind word and a message of hope. Um, yeah, let's continue to be heroes of hope. All right, love yourself, love somebody else. We'll all be better for it.